I just think of all the warning signs and everything that he sent and wonder what we could have done differently. And I talked to him a week before. He was so excited because he passed this test. Because he wanted to go back to school and go into nursing and stuff. We gotta be there for our kids now more than ever.
And counseling. That's something that the kids do need.
They all need it, I agree with
you. Oh, they all do.
I'm never gonna be a grandma to his kids.
Yeah, that's true.
Never. I'm not gonna see him get married or...
Hi, besties. I hope you had a great weekend. So I've made a decision after watching season 19, episode 25, that for the first time since I've been blogging about the show and posting recaps of these episodes, I won't be having any clips because it doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel right to share clips from that episode because there was so much that happened in that episode that I was as gorgeous as it was that they said goodbye to him and they laid him to rest. It felt super personal and I don't feel like I need to spread that around anymore. That TL that is on TLC, they had the graveside ceremony and it was broadcast on TLC and they put his urn in the ground and it was so close and so hard to watch. But I just wanted to mention a couple of things from the episode other than that part of the episode because that part of the episode was like the middle of it. There was a segment before they left for the cemetery and then there was a segment after that. And I just wanted to sort of expound on what my observations were from that. And very early on in the episode, it was clear that Janelle and Christine had some of their children with them. Not all children were there for all segments of it. Mykelti and Tony were missing. I think this happened to coincide when they were moving or in the process of moving to North Carolina, so maybe because of that. So Mykelti and Tony were missing. And I could see from what I could tell the other siblings were there. Logan was on screen but didn't say a thing. Hunter was there but he was not in any of the scenes of the episode when they fished, same as Logan. They barely placed themselves in any of that. Gabriel was there, all Christine's kids except Mykelti were there, and then Leon and Audrey were there. So all the siblings but Mykelti and of course Garrison wasn't there because it was his funeral, and then Mary was there, but Mary wasn't with them, didn't stay with Janelle and Christine, and Mary wasn't there during the filming when they filmed with even Leon. So I don't know if Mary just wasn't invited and she wasn't invited to do this type of thing because they're not really close, and Leon decided to hang with their siblings and that there was activities that Leon participated with Mary offset, but Leon was included in the filming with their siblings. So really, it was really nice to see Leon with Audrey and they actually looked really devastated about it all. So it was, fairly obvious in this episode that Garrison's death did not bring any reconciliation with Kody whatsoever, most especially when the adult children were present with Christine and Janelle, and even at the cemetery, none of the two groups interacted with one another. And so when in reality they were face to face, Kody was on one side with Robyn and her kids except Dayton, and then on the other side it was like the rest of them. Really, it was like Kody and Robyn on one side and the rest of the world on another side. And there was no seeing interacting between the two sides. They maintained their distances. There was a very clear disconnect between them. There was a very clear not interested in talking between them, and there was a clear no reconciliation occurred. Okay. And Janelle did mention that this death has served as a good reminder to the siblings, and by the siblings she means the children with her, Christine and Mary, and how all those kids have somehow, at least some of them, mended some of the fences, some of the hurt between them, resolved some of their issues, reconnected more and communicated more and spent more time together, and they call in more and they talk more to one another. It's bonded them like glue with them all again, where they're just kind of reminded of what's important. It's made them closer as people within their relationships, and it's also made them willing to kind of put aside their differences between the all of the children minus Robyn's children. That never there was no communication whatsoever between Robyn's children and the children that the OG3's original children. So there's sort of like this clean space. There's all these different rival accounts. And I do think this episode was done much better in that it involved a lot more of Janelle and Christine and their kids, those that were directly impacted by it, those that remained with Garrison. I sort of felt that there was more time for them to sort of give their input and their emotions and to talk and to share their memories. There was time for Christine and to Janelle to sort of share, their own grief and their own struggles through all of this. And it was nice to see, though it did sort of feel really invasive and a bit exploitative, just nice to see that Christine and Janelle were able to be there for each other. And I think what I've found oddly about this is that I had lots of questions about David, Christine's husband, initially. I had those questions about his past, and like, was he in this for the right reasons? Is he such a nice guy? And he is like the most stable guy ever. All the kids love him. He's like a rock for Christine. He seems to be a rock for her kids. He and Truly obviously have just a wonderful relationship, and he just sort of fits in like so naturally with those with the family, like he was always supposed to be there. So I'm just happy that Christine has such a good SP partner in this. So I think that part of the process has likely been the most. It shouldn't come as a surprise, but it's been the most. I'm just so glad Christine once again has a good partner. I'm so glad that she was able to find that love that she wants. I'm so glad that when she's dealing with something like that, she's got people that she can call on to be there for her. And then when we're getting to Janelle, it was just super obvious that her boys are just sort of rallying around her and protecting her and being with her and like just sort of trying to take care of her, even though they're losing their dad as well. It's just obvious that her boys are leaning into her and taking care of her. So I'm happy that she has that too. There wasn't really much between Kody and Janelle where there was on-camera conversation or dialogue, only at the cemetery at the graveside when she gave him the urn and he placed it in the ground. But even during the funeral they sat on opposite ends. They talked at completely different times. They were really separated. And I noticed that when Kody was speaking of Garrison, even the siblings weren't even gazing at him. They were kind of looking down, just about, not even bothered to listen to what he had to say. It seemed almost like they kind of looked at it like it was just so performative. So there was that. I would have liked not to have seen him be buried. Honestly, I don't think I had to see that. But there was something at the end that kind of piqued my interest, and it's something that I have been informed about by other people who know them. It's that Madison sitting down with Leon and she said like, I feel sad for Kody, but I really do feel sad for Kody's kids. She didn't even mention Robyn's name. It was pretty obvious that just like a lot of the issues with Kody obviously are regarding how he treated them. They have most of their issues are with Kody, but then they'll say Kody's name, but they won't say Robyn's name. So they don't call them their siblings. So Maddie was like, if I could speak to Robyn's children, I would say that I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel bad. I didn't feel that. I didn't mean to ever make you feel this way. And Luan said something and said, I just want to be able to speak to them. And I thought, gosh, that is so strange, right? What have Kody and Robyn done to those kids in order to get them poisoned so much against all of the rest of the other kids in this family? Why are the two sets of siblings so opposed to each other? I understand that there's this whole the haves and the have-nots. The ones that are like such as Kody and Robyn that are so much better than everyone, and Janelle and Christine and Mary and their kids on the other side of the equation. And that was all also pretty obvious just in the way Robyn and Kody got to the burial ground, where they all were like all groomed up and looking very handsome. And then a lot on the side where Christine and Janelle and the children were. They were there more in a slack manner, honoring the slackness of Garrison. So it was kind of like that kind of contrast, like they're all dressed up really like they're going to church and the other side was more slack. That was just another thing I picked up on. But what if they let them know that it's so out of reality for them to even have a conversation that they can't even call them to have a conversation because it's being dictated and controlled by Robyn and Kody? These are adult individuals that they clearly could have a conversation with. And I understand that if your siblings have blocked you and if your siblings do not want to talk to you, that's fine. You have yourself should hold boundaries. But in this case, I believe that all the problems with the siblings are because of what Kody and Robyn have done and said in order to poison them against those kids. And I sort of wonder a lot of that is because they don't want the kids to all talk and be able to make up and figure out the truth about who was the one that was planting things in our heads about them. Because it really was Robyn that is constantly sending the message and the implication of what she thinks people think of her. And she's the one who got traumatized and rejected, by the other OG3 children. And she transferred that to her children. They don't accept me, so they don't get to have a relationship with them. And apparently the OG3 children didn't cope well. And they all did it in front of the television, which was a horrible idea when they put the families together, and Kody just plain simply rode off into the sun with the kids and Robyn. I mean, that is basically what he did. There's years and years and years worth of anger and frustration, but that even at the funeral they could not talk to each other. Even at the funeral they did not speak. Even at the funeral Kody did not speak to any of his children except for Robyn's children, since he only spoke to Robyn's children. He did not speak to any of his remaining children. So when I think of it like that, it's like you don't even have a relationship with your other kids, the siblings, the direct siblings who are engaged with Garrison, but then you're way over there causing this whole fuss about Garrison when you don't even have a relationship with his siblings. I felt really this is odd. If you're a parent, how do you not cross over to the other side and say, I'm sorry, I mess up? How do you not try to make everything right? How do you not admit that you were wrong? How do you not realize that you could have done things differently? How do you still in death not try to make things right? And so when they're discussing, Michaelia said that they did things during this process that caused her step back from them. I think this is what they're referring to. They pretend like they don't care about the other kids. All of this is being done for TV, and when they get to spend time with those kids in person, there is no conversation. And I'm aware that many of the children have nothing to do with him and that I can appreciate, but not even an attempt. It was just nuts. I did witness Logan go up to Robyn and the children Brianna, Aurora, and embrace them at the graveyard and the graveside service. That was about the only one that I witnessed interacting that crossed the line, but that is Logan. Logan is the peacemaker of our family. So at the funeral, Tim, Kody's sister's husband and owner of the ranch, delivered a eulogy type of thing, but more like a sermon, I suppose. And he spoke about the mourning of a mother and grieving loss of a child and the importance of learning about relationships and how to put things between people aside from one another in order to mend fences. I thought his message was relevant and was given compassionately in the context of what's happened in this family. I wondered why he had Kody take the fault and said, "Nobody will understand the sorrow of a father or a father's sorrow for the death of Garrison." And I'm not sure if Kody prompted him to say that. I do not know whether or not that was done so that the other kids will know that Kody is sorry for what happened and that he knows he is to blame for what he has done and for the manner in which he caused all of this trouble and the things that he said about Garrison so openly. But maybe something else could have been spoken at the service. That was my one moment where I just did not need to hear that. I did not need to hear about Kody being sorry because none of his behavior with his other children showed that he had remorse. That is how I saw it. Hands down, TLC did a better job with this show. And Robyn was pretty much non-existent on the show, and she did not seem to care about Garrison. It was all Kody brought his boy home, not we buried our son. Which, if you're going to be a stepmother, Robyn, you need to start looking at Kody's kids as your kids too. But who am I? So what do you think about this breakdown in the family? Were you moved? Were you uneasy? And how do you feel about this ongoing division in the family? Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. And tap the bell so you don't miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.